Hey everybody, welcome back to Useful AI Hacks. Yesterday, OpenAI just released their flagship GPT 5.1 model. It's said to be a smarter, more conversational ChatGPT. They say we're updating GPT-5 while making it easier to customize ChatGPT. And we're going to get right into that in just a second. Pretty awesome ways you can customize it. They did a GPT 5.1 instant, and they also did a GPT 5.1 thinking model to go along with this. So first up, let's go into a little bit of specs on this. GPT 5.1 is ChatGPT's most used model. It's now warmer by default and more conversational. It's based on the earliest testing that often surprises people with its playfulness while remaining clear and useful. So next up, when we look at GPT 5.1 thinking, it says they're also upgrading GPT-5 thinking to make it more efficient, easier to understand, and everyday use. It now adapts its thinking time more precisely to questions spending more time on complex problems while responding more quickly to simpler ones. In practice, that makes it more thorough on answers for difficult requests, and there's less waiting time for simpler questions as well. So a big update that came along with GPT 5.1 is making ChatGPT uniquely yours, as OpenAI says. Alongside these model improvements, they're making it easier to customize ChatGPT's tone and style. Let's jump right into that and show you exactly how to do that. They say that they heard clearly from users that the gray AI should only be smart, but also enjoyable to talk to. How did they hear that? Well, do you remember their last GPT-5 launch? Well, that was a shitstorm, so to speak, on Reddit. All the subreddits were going off like crazy, and I'll tell you, Reddit users were just not happy that they lost all of their legacy models. Well, fast forward to this GPT 5.1 launch, guess what happened? Specifically for Android users, and I can actually attest to it myself as I was impacted, and I still have not gotten access. What I'm talking about is when they launched GPT 5.1 yesterday, Sam Altman put out an X post letting everybody know that they launched it. And of course, I immediately jumped on chatgpt.com. However, I was out and about, so I jumped on it from my mobile phone. I also looked at the ChatGPT app from my mobile phone. It did have the GPT 5.1, GPT 5.1 instant, and GPT 5.1 thinking that Sam Altman was talking about, the recent release. However, when you click on the legacy model dropdown, totally gone. No models whatsoever show up. There was no 03, 4.1, no models whatsoever in the legacy group. Now, I found out that this was actually only due to a rollout that was an issue. And it says here, if you can see, in this subreddit, I asked ChatGPT 5.1, I said, why are the legacy models, why did they disappear? And they said, well, with the release of GPT 5.1, OpenAI quietly pushed out a UI update across mobile apps, Android and iOS. And this update temporarily, although even still, removed the visibility list of legacy models, such as 4.0 or 4.4 and 4 Turbo, 4.0, 0.1, 0.1 Mini, 0.3 Mini, 4.1, etc. So that was a big issue because you see, like I said, everybody, many people at least, have systems built off of these legacy models. They're working hard to get the issue resolved. However, they do say it can take 1 to 2 weeks for another major release to be pushed out. Until then, they say you just have to use a regular web browser. And even the web browser on my Android phone did not work. So you basically have to browse from a desktop computer or a laptop. And this actually doesn't affect all Android users, as you can see here in this subreddit, where it did affect me. However, other users claim that they do have access to all the legacy models, as you can see here. It can be just limited to me, I figured. And that's the reason why I had to go into it. And yet, sure enough, this Reddit post that I put up about it, it now has gotten 40 upvotes, 74 comments, and 39,000 plus views. Obviously, it wasn't me, the only one that was impacted. This person here, Intelligent Fox 585, says that he was able to get it, as I just showed you. But there are others that say they can't get it also. So I'm asking you, comment in the comments below and let us know. Are you able to access the legacy models from either chatgpt.com or chat.com or the ChatGPT app? And also let us know, are you on Android or iOS device when trying to access it, if you can't access the models, or if you can? I'd like to drill down and figure out why this is exactly happening. You see, I actually have two Android smartphones. And funny enough, one of them, the legacy models show up, but the other one, they do not. Could this be a platform specific issue, or could it be a provider of the cell phones, or could it be operating system that they are running on? Although both of my cell phones are running on the same operating system. One is, however, a couple of years older than the other one, so that could be an issue. Not quite sure about that, but nevertheless, tell us in the comments. And really, I want to jump into the next issue. I asked ChatGPT, what are the main differences between previous legacy models? I wanted to know because, of course, we can access this directly from your settings tab. And right here under personalization, you can see here the different tones. It's set to default under style and tone, base style and tone, set to default at first for a balanced style and tone. However, there's a professional tone that you can select for more polished, precise responses, friendly tone for warm and chatty responses, a candid tone for more direct and engaging responses. If you want it to be quirky with you, playful and imaginative, there's now a quirky preset that you can use. Efficient for if you need a concise and plain, straightforward response. If you're looking to dive deep into some nerdy topics, well, they got a nerdy preset for you that will explore all the different aspects in typical nerd fashion. And they also have a cynical response that's built in. It'll give you critical and sarcastic tones. However, the issue that I saw with this is that if you select this in this way, all of your responses are going to be in that same tone. If you choose professional, you're always going to be set in professional tone. It kind of sucks. So there's another way to do it, which is by custom instructions. You could tell it certain instructions, like if I ask you this type of question, use a chatty tone. If I ask you this type of question, use a witty tone. If I ask you a straightforward shooting question, like I wrote no if, ands, or buts about it, tell me exact answers, then ask it a straightforward shooting question. And all of these things, if you're Gen Z and you want to respond like that, well, then add a prompt in for that. And you can add custom instructions in for each one of these different presets. But That even gets a bit cumbersome. And hey, if you tend to ask it something that wasn't in those set instructions, who knows how it's going to respond. So I decided to ask it, how can I use these presets? Tell me how to select the 8 tone presets: default, professional, friendly, candid, quirky, efficient, nerdy, and cynical, to steer and customize the model. So it gave me this way to do it. And this is exactly how to do it. It's really quite simple, guys. You don't have to go into the custom presets or settings or anything to be able to switch up your tone. You simply have to tell it to use professional tone. Let's go into here to tell you when to use what type of tone. For default, you would use this when you want a balanced and clear response. For general purpose help, answers, and explanations. If you don't want a specific personality, in other words, just use the default response. But if you're looking for a more professional response, for business emails, technical explanations, proposals, documentation, client-facing content, for instance, then you steer the model to be more formal, using formal vocabulary, clear structure, no slang, no humor unless you ask it to. And the response should definitely be polished and an authoritative tone. But you can also do friendly, as you can see here, for social posts, customer communication, tutorials, sensitive topics, where it'll give you a more welcoming, warm tone. Or you can have it be candid for you when you want clarity with no fluff. It gives you honest opinions, direct feedback, and straightforward explanations. It steers the model to be very direct with no sugarcoating. So be aware of that. It's going to be blunt, straightforward, right? Exactly what some of you might want. It's going to be candid. Not very formal, but it's going to tell you in plain wording simply exactly the way it feels. And then if you want to be quirky, you can use creative writing, branding, personality, fun intros, ads, or scripts that you can create using the quirky tone. It'll give a comic or whimsical topic, results, essentially. For more playful humor, unused metaphors, light irrelevance, and more energetic and imaginative phrasing in its responses. Then there's efficient, if you want answers fast, like for coding instructions would be a great thing to do efficient. You don't want any beat around the bush. You want to tell you exactly how to do something. If you're busy or you have a time sensitive topic at work that you need help with, you should probably use the efficient so it gets straight to the point. It summarizes, outlines, lists, does all that kind of great stuff. It's going to be ultra concise in its wording. It's not going to use much filler words. And who knows about the punctuation? Try it out and tell us in the comments below if it still loves to use those wonderful M dashes that nobody actually really writes, but they haven't got that one figured out yet, or maybe they did with this 5.1. So, anyways, nevertheless, creates bullet points and paragraphs and focuses on direct solutions that way. But you can also use the nerdy tone for tech content, like AI topics, diving deep into the content. STEM explanations would be great to use a nerdy tone on. Humor aimed at geeks. It's going to give you more technical vocabulary and reference scientific and tech culture, intellectually enthusiastic with analytical detail. So that'd be a great one. And hey, if you want to be cynical with you, give it a little snarkiness and commentary, then you can use it for this, use it for satire. You can use it for reviews or opinions to give it a little bit of edge. Humor with dry wit. It's great to use the cynical tone. So I want to know exactly prompts to be able to do this. So I asked it, I want you to give me a prompt for each tone that will make GPT 5.1 activate each of the 8 tones. So here you go, guys. Here's your prompts. Go ahead and pause if you like, but it's really quite simple. Every single one, as you can see, you simply start off the prompt with adopt the, and then the type of tone. Adopt the default tone. Adopt the professional tone. Adopt the friendly tone. Adopt the candid tone. Adopt the quirky tone. Adopt the efficient tone. Adopt the nerdy tone. Adopt the cynical tone. Simple as that to activate it directly in the prompt. And then you just tell it your prompt. As they already know, they've set the prompt. So if I tell it to write with the friendly tone or the candid tone, for instance, it should do it on its own if you just tell it the topic. Let's try it right now. Drop the candid tone. And then on the next line, so you got to press shift and enter so it won't push the response to the LLM yet. Then we're going to say adopt the candid tone. And you know what? Let's make it a bit, let's do this. Let's do the candid and that's all you do. You just add a plus in the other type. So let's do the nerdy, candid and nerdy tone. Tell us about the pitfalls of the recent GPT 5.1 large language model launch. See how long the response is here. Here are some of the candid plus nerdy observations and on the pitfalls associated with the GPT 5.1 launch. These don't aim to undermine the progress made, but rather to spotlight where things still require caution or improvement in the stack. Starting off with residual baggage from the prior version. Although GPT 5.1 is positioned as an upgrade to GPT-5, many of the criticism of GPT-5, well, they carried over to the 5.1. For instance, users had previously reported GPT-5 felt flat or less personable compared to GPT-4o. And as you know, on Reddit, that was all over the place. However, Reddit users are pretty happy from what I've seen so far about this GPT 5.1 launch. Next up, there was tone, personality versus capability trade-off. One of the touted features of GPT 5.1 is the inclusion of selectable tone. But there's a nerdy catch. Balancing high reasoning capability with natural conversational tone is non-trivial. With increased warmth and tone flexibility, the model may, in some cases, trade off raw precision or optimal reasoning strategies for fluidity of expression. One article points out that fewer hallucinations means safer outputs, but also potentially less creative or bold responses. As noted in this Fast Company article of 5 things to know about OpenAI's new GPT 5.1. And we'll link to this article down in the description. Another issue was that automatic routing, and there were also control issues. Now, you remember in GPT-5 launch, the automatic routing just did not work whatsoever. It did not know how to route the models whatsoever. Well, that also came across over into GPT 5.1, according to many users. And next up, mashing of legacy model access and user expectations. That says it all right there, guys. This is what happened to me. GPT 5.1, click the drop down. It was on auto. I clicked on legacy models. That's the reason why it's grayed out right here. But yet there was no drop down area here telling me any of the legacy models. That and I'm sure many of you, have built a lot of projects off of, a lot of GPTs off of. In here, you can see, no bueno. And that was at 1:16 p.m. in the afternoon, which was only about an hour after Sam Altman launched on X that they had just released it. However, other users in the Reddit forum, the Reddit subreddit that I posted in, said that they did have access to it. So I'm not sure. Tell me in the comments below, did you lose access to any of the legacy models during the GPT 5.1 rollout yesterday? Or do you still have access to them? And tell us, what kind of device do you have? Do you have Android, iOS? Were you browsing via the internet on your mobile phone, or were you browsing via the Chat GPT app? Or how were you accessing it? Tell us all the details. I'd like to be able to drill down and figure out exactly what's the deal, because I do have two Android phones, and one was getting it, the legacy models, I mean, and the other one was not. So let's see what the issue is with this. It also had issues with creativity versus risk mitigation balance. One article posted that GPT 5.1 notes that when hallucination drops, the model tends to stick with safe outputs rather than bold ones. In practice, if you ask for novel ideas, speculative thinking, or creative generation, you may find the model becomes more conservative. And that's a trade-off and a pitfall, if you ask me. For users who expect creative leaps rather than just safe accuracy. Another pitfall that they had was marketing hype versus real-world user experience. You see, the launch of GPT-5 was met with criticism that the hype exceeded the delivered experience. Now, although GPT 5.1 is positioned as smarter, more conversational, according to ChatGPT, OpenAI, the risk is that if users base their expectations on marketing rather than benchmark-driven evaluation, they may be disappointed. As a tech-savvy user, I suggest that you evaluate this on your own and come to your own conclusions for your own use cases. There was also latency issues. Compute cost and tier access was an issue. So with the higher capacity models like thinking variants, they come at higher costs and potentially greater latency. Okay, so now we're going to use a different tone. See the difference in this. Let's use a cynical tone. So now we're using a cynical tone to tell us this. I just said, now rewrite by adopting the cynical tone. You can see the difference. Yes, GPT 5.1, the shiny new update that was supposed to fix everything people disliked about GPT-5. Spoiler, it didn't. Not true. Let's take a stroll through the improvements and the lovely little traps hiding underneath. I like this cynical tone. Still haunted by GPT-5's reputation. 2, tone represents great until they aren't. The black box routing problem. GPT 5.1 automatically chooses whether you get the instant version or the deeper thinking sibling. Sounds helpful, right? Unless you like predictability, then it's chaos. Sometimes it thinks deeply, sometimes it fires back instantly. Sometimes it pretends to think deeply and then gives you an instant result anyway. But don't worry, the system is smart, right, Sam Altman? It just won't tell you what it's doing, how it's doing it, or whether it's going to follow your directions. So the issue is this. I would suggest telling it in every single prompt that one-liner of adopt this type of tone according to what result you're looking to get. And as you can see, we didn't have to go into telling it exactly what that type of tone meant. You simply have to say, adopt this type of tone. Now, to all you guys that lost your legacy models like I did in this GPT 5.1 launch, have no fear. The legacy models are still available according to OpenAI, but maybe not for long. If you're an enterprise user, you might have them a bit longer, unless OpenAI changes their mind on that too, which most likely they will. So if you're building workflows, automations, or anything depending on consistent behavior, I suggest using the updated 5.1 model, as that one will last longest until they come out with 5.2 or whatever else they're going to come out with next. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be next month. Who knows? But we all know that OpenAI moves extremely fast because they're in this rat race to win. So it's up to you. What do I suggest? I suggest maybe download one of their open source models and then train it yourself and run it locally. And if you want to learn how to do that, you can check out our other video that's going to be linked in the description. GPT 5.1 thinking mode is powerful, and that it's essentially more capable, but it does have higher latency, it does have higher compute costs, and it occasionally overthinks. That happens a lot, apparently, according to a lot of subreddit users. In other words, it's a marvel at engineering until real world constraints remind you that you're paying for every token like liquid gold, so to speak. So you want a cynical summary of this? The cynical summary comes out as this. GPT 5.1 isn't bad. It's actually quite good. But the launch comes with usual assortment of modern AI pitfalls. Overselling the hype, under-delivering on transparency, creating new UX issues while patching old ones. I'm not sure why they decided to drop a new UI at the same time. You would think they would kind of try to get their back end working first flawlessly and then implement the front end. No, they decided to drop it both all at once, and it caused a bit of an issue. They will fix it. It'll just take maybe a week or two. The major difference was their introduction of tone controls that sometimes feel like they're fighting one another. So yes, progress has been made, but just not the kind that will eliminate sarcasm for future GPT updates. So that's the cynical summary. Let's check out again what the text summary was. From a nerdy professional perspective, if you consider integrating 5.1 into production for your workflows, such as YouTube scripting, WordPress plugin integration, automation agents, etc., you should run comparative tests between older models versions and GPT 5.1 for your specific tasks, specifically noting tone, accuracy, latency, and cost. To evaluate how the tone presets and routing logic affect the consistency of your output, especially if you rely on predictable style and behavior. So stay tuned for model variations or deprecations. I would suggest you build flexibility into your integration and be aware of creative versus safe output trade-offs. And be sure to set real expectations. Improved capability doesn't mean flawless behavior. Pitfalls will definitely remain. You always need to be creative in your prompting So, if you want to learn more about useful AI hacks, you can now go ahead and ask ChatGPT 5.1 to tell me about the Useful AI Hacks YouTube channel. Adopt a friendly, professional tone. Useful AI Hacks is a fast growing YouTube channel dedicated to helping viewers stay ahead of the rapidly changing world of artificial intelligence. The channel delivers daily AI news, practical tutorials, hands on demonstrations, and easy to follow guides designed to help beginners, tech enthusiasts, remote workers, and creatives understand and apply today's most powerful AI tools. Every video is created with focus on clarity, accuracy, and approachability, making complex concepts feel simple and actionable. Whether you're exploring AI for the first time or looking to level up your skills, the channel provides dependable, well researched content that keeps you informed. And that's correct. We offer daily AI news at 11 a.m., tutorials and guidelines, beginner-friendly learning expectations for you, and practical demonstrations, along with creator and freelance tools. So be sure to hit that like button. Share this video with your friends and family so that they get to stay up to date on the latest GPT 5.1 launch. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.